Let's do a Boston Marathon course preview, run you through some of the logistics, as well as the course, aid stations, things like that. I ran this race in 2015 and 16, had two very different weather days there and two very different results. So I've kind of seen a lot of what this race holds and know kind of a lot of the hills and how things pan out pretty well from my two times running it. So let's do a little run through here. So first off, make sure you go on the website and take a look at all of the logistics so you know what time your group is starting, what time you need to catch the buses. Like there's buses that leave really early and they drive essentially from the finish line to the start line. That's going to be your best way to get there. There's also bag check right where you get on the buses, so you can check anything you need for right after the race. Personally, I put like my phone and stuff in there in a little backpack and had it in the bags that they give you. But that means you'll already have dropped your stuff there because there's no bag drop at the start line. So just make sure you maybe bring a throwaway sweater and pants, something to stay warm, and then also bringing along some extra hydration and food because you're probably getting on these buses like 2, 3 hours before you're actually going to start running. So you'll want to make sure that you have some fuel to stay topped off so you don't end up dehydrated or hungry by the time you start the race. And then at the start lines, obviously, there's lots of porta potties, things like that. Stay on your fuel, stay on your hydration, try and stay out of the sun if it is a sunny morning. The second time I ran it, it was a warm day, and I kind of got caught out in the sun. And right away, like getting on the start line, I was already really warm that morning. So just thinking about how you can keep your core temp as low as possible during the race is huge. So Boston's notoriously you get different weather every single year. So it could be anything from crazy windy day. I had a headwind the one year, no wind the second year. I've heard years where you get full tailwind the entire way or crosswind. So just be prepared for whatever is going to come that day. And then maybe as you're getting closer to the start line, you can look at your weather app and stuff like that in the day leading in to see like what you can kind of predict. But obviously, headwind day, maybe you're wanting to tuck in behind some taller people to break the wind a bit. Boston's such a dense race that you're always going to have people running around you, which is nice for pacing. You can always be kind of pushing or backing off depending on how you're feeling in that moment. So in terms of the race course, so I got point to point race course here. Here's the elevation profile down here as well. So let's run through it. So you can see really a lot of downhill here in the first 6 miles or 10K. The common thing a lot of people do and go wrong in this race is trying to bank a lot of time in this first 10K. But I've seen it so many times people come out and rip 10, 20 seconds per kilometer or 15, 30 seconds a mile faster than their marathon pace in this. And then suddenly things get real at the halfway mark and they're in trouble already. What I recommend and when I ran my best race there is just use this first 5, 6 miles and run your marathon pace and the whole race environment, your taper plus the downhill is going to make it feel so easy. So you really want to target maybe around your goal marathon pace or maybe slightly quicker. That's just the whole environment pulling you naturally. But if you can stay away from going way too hard, I don't think you're going to regret it because there's a lot of work to be done in the back section of the hills. But if you can get through those well, there's a lot of downhill to finish. So we got that first 5 or 6 miles where a lot of downhill. Then it's really flat for a while. And especially if you overcook that, this can start to feel hard to hold pace. Where if you did that first 6 miles in control, then you can start to get in your rhythm and the RPE will go up a little bit, but you're kind of in your rhythm and you're rolling with people around the same pace as you. And you just want to kind of turn your mind off and tick off a bunch of those Ks. You get a nice downhill here around the middle part, and you're going to hit the Wellesley Scream Tunnel, which is amazing through the halfway point. Things really start to get real here at about 25K or 15 and a half miles. You have this kind of ripping downhill, which I really recommend just take it back, let the heart rate drop a little bit, stay relaxed, and then you get into what we call the Newton Hills. So there's really a lot of people say there's only three of them, but there's really four of them. So you get this first one at 16 miles here. decent one. The nice thing with all of these hills, if you look at it, you get a nice little reward once you get over the top. So if I recommend on the tactic, it's not pushing too hard on these uphills. RPE is going to rise a little bit, but know that when you get over the top, if you didn't gas it that hard, you can get back to pace pretty quickly and take advantage of this slight net downhill to sort of make up any of the time you bled on that hill. But if you can do that right, these hills actually are not that long and they're not that bad. So you got first one 16 miles, second one 17 and a half miles, next one just after 19 miles, and then you got Heartbreak Hill, which is just kind of this long, gradual, steep one. And really, the hills are only as hard as you've made it, depending on how you've run in the first 25K. So if you pace it well, you can be on that goal marathon pace or maybe slightly ahead from what you got in that first 6 miles going into this. And you can actually run pretty even pace through this part if you pace it well. Maybe you bleed a tiny bit of time. But when ran my best race, I got over the top of Heartbreak feeling good. And look at the opportunity you have in this last, what is it, 5 miles, 8 kilometers of running where you have a ton of downhill and then a flat to the finish where you just have the insane crowds in the last 2 miles pulling you to the finish line. So if there's one thing I can say, like, I know there's a couple tough hills in here, but if you're patient in that first 15 miles and just kind of tick them off at goal marathon pace and run strong through the hills, there's a great opportunity to run fast on this course. But a lot of people get way too greedy. And what happens is if they run too hard in the first 6 miles, they destroy their quads, they overuse carbs. And then when they get in the hills, their quads are destroyed. They can't take advantage of downhills anymore. And they're starting to be a little more on the glycogen depleted side of things because they burnt those extra carbs early. And then what happens is you hit that dreaded wall. So, like, when I ran this marathon, I had some of my fastest splits in this 21 to 24 part, almost fat. Some of my slowest ones were these first 2 to 3 miles when they're ripping downhill, but it honestly felt like I was walking. So, cannot recommend that enough. Let's look at some of the course amenities. So lots and lots of water and Gatorade stations on the course. The Gatorade is endurance formula, so it's going to have some decent sodium in it. So I would recommend taking a fair amount of that in if you're not going to take any of your own sodium supplements. But yeah, you pretty much get it starting at mile 2, and I think it's almost like every mile or 2 miles you have a new station there. Make sure you bring a lot of your own fuel, but you also have 3 Morton stations that have both non-caffeine and caffeinated gels. So those are at 11.8 miles and 17 miles. So for the Canadians, that's going to be like 19K and around 27K. So a chance if you need an extra gel or something to go there. You also have these digital clocks with so many people around, you can get some weird GPS. So, what I like to do on a race like this is if I have a marathon strategy, nice even pacing strategy, I'll either write the splits in pen on my arm, or you can create these little marathon bands online and print them out and then just tape them to your arm. And it gives you kind of those check-ins every 5 kilometers. I don't love people checking their watch every single kilometer or mile. I think it just knocks you out of your rhythm. Where just be in the moment, roll with the flow, stay in that RPE, keep that breathing under control, run smart, and then check in every 5K or so. And then dropout, we don't need to know any of that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of a rundown of the course and a lot of the key stuff. So I think big take homes is don't get greedy in the first 6 to 8 miles, run your marathon pace. Smooth on the hills, so smooth but strong. So you're still gonna raise the effort, but take advantage of the downhills. Set yourself up for that last 5 miles to be very strong, and you can make up a lot of time in that section. But overall, an incredible race lined with spectators the whole way. You'll see all the people with their red solo cups just partying. So soak in the atmosphere, have so much fun with it, and use that energy, bottle it up and save it for that last 5 miles where you just go for a rip and have an amazing time on Boylston to finish. It is so much fun and one of my favorite races that I will definitely be going back to soon enough. So have so much fun and good luck out there.